Welcome to episode 204 of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South and Texas Pete. On today's episode, we preview Week 8 in college football, and Chris does a midseason review with SDS's own Connor O'Gara. You can find this show on our website, SaturdayDownSouth.com, and Apple and Spotify. Don't forget to join us for the live recording of the show every Sunday at 8 Eastern Time on the Saturday Down South YouTube page. Go share the pod with your friends. Looking to expand the pod as the season progresses. We're halfway there. So go share with your friends so we can continue the excellent numbers we've generated this season. Find clips from the show on Twitter at SatDownSouth and at SatFBUncensored, on Instagram and TikTok at Saturday Down South. And you can find us on YouTube at Saturday Down South. And now, here's the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of College or Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South and Texas Pete. I'm your host, Tyler Huck, and with me as always, my co-host, Chris Marler. Chris, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's like it's felt like it's been Thursday all week. We're recording this on Wednesday. There's so much time still left to the weekend. I don't know if I'm
so Monday felt like Thursday. That's brutal.
Yeah.
It's good for like the vibes of the day. Like, oh, these Thursdays feel good. But then when you get to the evening, you're like, oh, it's Monday night.
Yeah. I think it was because like most of the season, because we're so busy, like on Saturday, Sunday, like all that kind of stuff. Like we used to have like an off day on Friday. And so I've like changed it to where I have like a bit of an off day on Monday, just because it's like there's just not much going on. But I was like so productive this Monday, like an idiot. Thought I was like, it felt like it was a Wednesday or Thursday. Anyway, I'm just going to ramble a lot on this episode because I am nervous and uncomfortable about what's going to happen in Tuscaloosa.
Ooh, okay. Well, we'll get to the games in a minute, but first, let's talk a little bit about what's going on around college football. First topic we have today is on one Caleb Williams, or as you've dubbed him, Caleb Billions.
So, yeah, I figured before we get into the games, just like because like a couple of things happened this weekend, and we've spent so much time just talking about the games, and it's been nice not to have to talk about like realignment and NIL and all that kind of stuff. But there's been some interesting stuff that came out this week. I don't know how true this is. I did hear one person say that they didn't think this was accurate at all, but it was from a pretty reliable source. Tweet came out yesterday saying Caleb Williams has told people. And I guess like not his agent, you know what I mean? That he wants.
They can have agents, so I'm sure he told his agent.
So he said he reportedly wants partial ownership of whatever NFL team drafts him. One ballsy move to say that after your worst game you've had in your entire career.
He's trying to pull the Messi, because that's how Messi came over to the MLS, is he got ownership in not only the team that he's on, but I think the MLS as well. And I guess Caleb Williams thinks he's on the global scale of Lionel Messi.
That's fucking ridiculous. like I think it's really cool still that there's like this incredible new reality that we're all in with NIL and all these cool opportunities, and it's great. It really is. They have no idea how to use it. Just like every time I see the On3 valuation, I'm like, it like Shedeur Sanders was like valued at like $5.3 million a couple weeks ago. I don't know if it's still the same. Is he getting $5.3 million? Like, what is happening here? Caleb Williams flat out said that he thinks he could make the same amount or more at USC if he came back.
No chance.
There's no chance.
Not where he's going to be drafted.
What's that?
Not where he's going to be drafted.
Right. And it's like the contracts aren't as ridiculous as they used to be. Like when you would have like a, franchise crippling, like $50 million signing bonus, like with Sam Bradford. But no, it just was interesting. He came out and he said, the NFL curiously has slammed the door on teams giving equity to players or employees before anyone ever actually tried to do it. Since posting an item on the issue earlier tonight, we've caught wind of two players who are hoping to score a slice of ownership now. So Caleb Williams is still in college, and he's started this whole trend, apparently. He's been making it known to prospective agents that Williams wants partial ownership. That's like, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's a really shrewd move on Caleb's part if he can get it done, because think about, most of us can't live in the world of an athlete, especially one that's
I'll speak for yourself. So.
The caliber of Caleb Williams and a professional. But like if you relate it to maybe real world, if you will, like if you go to work for a corporation like Amazon, they give you stock options, which are basically equity in the company.
Right.
And some of those are going to be based on performance. Some are just going to be because you work there. But either way, you're getting a piece of Amazon, which when you work there, that's going to incentivize you to make sure the company does better. So the stock does better. So your net worth goes up. For Caleb, he's thinking the same thing. He's like, whatever NFL team I want to root for, I want a piece of the action. I want to be able to grow the franchise's value, and my value will go up as well. So it's cool. I just don't know. Most of these owners aren't going to give up equity if they don't have to.
I think that NFL owners are dumb enough and crazy enough to do almost anything for quarterbacks. Like, I mean, like True. You see it every year for the draft. So I don't think it's that crazy. Was that?
Especially for the Bears who can't get it right.
But like, and those, especially with quarterbacks, like I feel like you see them fall in love with a first overall pick over and over and over again. Like they're just convinced that this is going to be the guy that's going to change everything. So I don't think it's even crazy to think that they would agree to it. My biggest question is like, what does that look like in the locker room? Because if you're already a rookie and you're already making more than like, almost everybody on the team, you got to kind of earn your keep, all of that stuff. Having part ownership, like one of the best parts about work usually is like being able to bitch about your boss. And like, now you're going to be part of like management. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. But I will say it's a cool opportunity. Like when I signed my contract with SDS, all we got was like 20% Bed and Bath & Beyond coupons, and they were expired. So
that's a tough
very different.
That's fair. Yeah. Well, I mean, it'd be cool if it happened. I don't know if you get those kind of like it puts a lot of pressure on a kid who's only going to be 20 when he's leading a franchise. So, but if he lives up to his expectation, I think the guys in the locker room are like, if we're winning, I don't care if he's got a piece of the action.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's that guy, if he's a Mahomes, I'm sure nobody in the locker room would care if Mahomes had a piece of equity in the Chiefs. No. If he's Justin Fields,
Bears
maybe there's an issue, but I don't
know. All right. So we don't need to get into this that much, but NIL is back in action. They talked to Congress this week. Did you read any about this?
I did not. The constant NIL, Congress, NCAA trifecta going on there. Let me know when something happens.
It sounded like from like what I heard, even the people like some of the stuff that was mentioned and like said was pretty egregious, but it's also at this point it's like almost like I'm numb to it because it's the NCAA. So this is from yesterday. It says the NIL hearing shows a desire to pass the bill to help the NCAA. How it gets there is uncertain. So this is what the NCAA should have been doing from day one in 2017, and they decided not to. And now they're here. And and I don't care if it helps the NCAA. Like, I don't want to have the NCAA have any more power. I just want this to be regulated so everyone's on the same page. And
uniformity.
And not even with like a cap.
You usually get pretty choked up about this, so I understand.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my voice right now. Jeez. Take over, Tyler.
Oh, God. Okay. Yeah, so the NCAA, we don't want them to have too much power, just like they're kind of have some waning power now, but you just want somebody to look over the NIL space and have some uniformity from school to school, conference to conference, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
We're back.
Yeah, against everyone's wishes, my voice is not gone. No, so anyway, they talked about this yesterday, and I don't care about there being a cap. I don't think that there's so many bad opinions on this and bad takes, but there needs to be some sort of regulation for sure. So this is what was most interesting. There was a quote from one of the politicians that was like, because Lindsey Graham, I think, was the most outspoken about it, who I live in South Carolina and my parents have lived here forever. Don't even get me started on this dude. He said college football is in pure chaos. I think it's hard for me not to get a little bit, I don't say defensive, but triggered, because I do think they need help from some outside source. I don't know if it's going to be Congress and like the government to do it.
And it is a bit chaotic right now.
Yes, but also I'm having a very hard time with all the truth that you just said. I'm having a very hard time realizing that, okay, the NCAA, which how fucked up that is have to go ask like the government for help, which is even more fucked up. And now they're like the comments are making about it's like, you know, like the disparity between like the money. It's like somebody said it's hard to feel bad for these kids when they're millionaires this early. And it's like, bro, you like how many you're supposed to make $185,000 a year as a senator. How many of them are millionaires? Like you don't get to say that. Just figure out how to pass the bill.
And Lindsey Graham's probably quoting like some player from like the 1960s on South Carolina.
Right.
I remember old Jimmy Two Top at running back. He never complained about making money. He had a full-time job working on the farm when he wasn't playing.
Right. Married, had 3 kids, lived in the dorms.
Right. You want me to believe that Spencer Rattler's supposed to make $1 million?
I think that, like I said, I know they need help. There was one person that was just very, very like who was in the room and like is obviously in some sort of government. And he was like, flat out, if you're asking us to fix this, it's like it's gonna be a minute. Like this is not gonna be an overnight thing. I don't know. I don't know if this helps or if it doesn't. I hope that there's just some sort of like direction they go in. But it also does feel like even more hypocrisy because the people like I don't know if there's more people out of touch with reality than politicians and the NCAA, and those two are now the masterminds behind trying to get this thing fixed. But anyway, that's enough NIL talk. Last thing I want to say is we'll say in the state of South Carolina with people being cringy as shit. Can we just get Dabo and Shane Beamer away from microphones for a minute?
Dabo's been on this streak for years, but Shane's catching up to him quickly and the cringe meter.
I thought like all offseason last year, like I've maintained, like I've made the joke, he's skinny Sam Pittman. Like how could you not root for Shane Beamer? How could you not root for South Carolina? And in like a very short time period, he has all but turned that around. Like not a 180, but not a 180. Yeah. And this, we'll get to that in a second, but like he's been catching a lot of heat because of just the way he is at his post-game press conferences. And I've said over and over again, like even back when like Mullen would get like, you know, catch heat for his reactions. I can't imagine how bad I would come off immediately after a loss if a bunch of cameras were in my face. Like
that would be fun.
It would be awful. It would be like, imagine if you had to keep your job, go talk to people that you don't want to talk to after you just had like a embarrassing day at work in front of like a national like audience, and then have to go answer questions from some like, I don't know, like me, like some like slob with a fucking beard and glasses. Like, Coach, do you think that you should have gone for it on 3rd and 3?
The analytics would say that you make it 94% of the time.
So Beamer, like he comes out that like all of his responses lately, people feel like he's not taking enough blame or taking enough responsibility.
He's blaming the players a lot, which is not what you want to do.
Yeah, but at the same time, like if they're the ones doing it, like I don't. Like, he still should. I mean, he comes off as a little bit whiny, and I get that. But yeah, like that has been like the consistent feedback from people like that he's been, you know, not accepting responsibility, blah, blah, blah. So whiny is the word that keeps coming up. Whiny, and he's just bitchy about stuff. He comes in on Monday or Tuesday, I'm sorry, and he has to make an announcement. I don't know why. That he got so mad after the game on Saturday, he kicked something and managed to break his foot. Like, first off, Beamer's like 120 pounds. Like, What was he kicking?
Well, it could have been something not that big if he's only 120 pounds.
It was like a kitten or something like that.
Well, let's not put that on the man.
I'd kick a cat. I'll say it. Just depends what kind of mood I was in. But, like, not a puppy. Beamer, like, of all the things he has said or not taken responsibility for, the fact that he wanted to start and like turn over a new leaf and start with this as like, by the way, I'm gonna come clean. Tiger got out of the cage, kicked something, broke my foot, hurt like heck.
Let's not lose our composure out there.
That would have made it so much better. Also, there almost certainly has to be fucking video of this somewhere. Like, that's all I want from this is like a Ring door cam of Beamer coming up and kicking something. No sound, just Charlie Chaplin that like grabbing his foot, hopping over in his like whatever his front yard or whatever. I thought it was so weird, like, and I'm not advocating lying or dishonesty, but you could have done it a little bit here. I don't think you had to leak this.
No, you didn't. But here we are on the cringe off, and Dabo said, "You know what, Shane Beamer,
Hold my milk."
Yep, hold my warm glass of shut the hell up. And Dabo's basically telling Clemson fans, "We don't want you."
They're not real fans, Tyler.
That's right. Every Clemson fan that's been fans since all the glory days in
2013 on.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going for there.
Yeah,
of course, we've got bandwagon fans. That's what happens with success. You don't then go turn around and say, maybe we need to loosen up. What was this exact quote?
So I'm pulling it up right now, and I love the opening line here is Dabo Swinney might not be on social media, because that's such a Dabo thing to do. It's like, no, I don't have Facebook, but like why would I need it? You know what I mean? I go outside, I touch grass, brother.
I don't. And then like there's face or whatever it's called. I'm cold.
Right. He is 1,000% a say it wrong on purpose to sound above it type of person.
Oh yeah.
But also there's a very real video that will never go away of him doing the whoa on TikTok, and that hickory dickory dock video. Anyway, says he's aware of dissatisfaction from some Clemson football fans after the Tigers' 4-2 start. On his Monday night radio show, Tiger Calls, brilliant name. Swinney responded to some of the negativity among the fan base. If you don't go undefeated, people say you're losers, that you're terrible. It's such a terrible mindset. Now, he's not anywhere wrong yet.
Yeah.
That's fine. And every time he opens his mouth, I want to believe he's going to go in a place that is good, and he's making a good point, and it's not going to just go off the fucking rails and turn into some TV evangelist. And he ends up, of course, going down that route and says, honestly, maybe we need to lose a few games. Lighten up the bandwagon. Yeah, sometimes the bandwagon can get a little too full. That's the one good thing about going through a little so-called adversity. You really find out who's with you and who's not.
Yeah, so I see what Dabo's saying here. He's saying, look, we have so much success that I think we've gotten a little bit fat when it comes to fans that really don't truly believe.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a true believer, we're willing to intentionally lose games so you people will show yourselves. We will excommunicate you, and then we'll get back to winning.
This is so old school church type, like just Old Testament, fear of God. Like just, it is crazy to me that he that was that is such a passive aggressive bitch thing to do. Like, oh, okay, that's fine. Like, hey, Dabo, I wish you didn't lose that game. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm the worst. I had no idea. I didn't know I was the worst. I'm so sorry. Like, impossible to fucking have an actual rational conversation with. Like, if your reaction as a head coach is maybe we need to lose some games because we have too many fans, I got news for you, buddy. Like, it's not hard for anyone to dislike you. So, like, those numbers can jump pretty quickly. Anyway, yeah, I can't. They should have to do a joint press conference after the game they play in November.
You want to take this one, Shane?
It's the only thing I am going to take today because no one likes me. It's just mic's not working. Somebody didn't set the mic correctly. Chair's all fucked up.
Broke my knuckles coming in here.
I'll tell you what about knuckles.
Walls aren't secured.
I'll tell you what. Tell you something about knuckles. Put them knuckles together, Tyler. Let's start this press conference with a prayer. Father God, see it now. Beautiful.
Well, let's jump into your interview with Saturday Down South's own friend of the pod, Connor O'Gara.
Yeah.
A little mid-season review. Talk about some of the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, we had so look, we should be doing this like once a year and just having like a throwback where him and I do a show. We did it a couple times, I think, in 2021, but we're just both so busy, especially him because he's just killing it. He's also a new dad. But I reached out to him yesterday. I was like, why don't we just do a little one-off here and put it in the show? And, just a mid-season review because we're a little bit past the halfway point. So it was a fantastic time catching up with my old co-host and good buddy, Connor. We talked for about 30 minutes about all things around the country, from so far in the first half of the season, and then played a little 2-minute drill at the end. Had a lot of fun. So here is that. Connor, countdown.
Coming down in 3, 2, 1.
What? Oh, okay. All right. It's a lot of nostalgia here. We are joined by a very special guest, former co-host, still good buddy, someone that's just killing it lately in general. Connor O'Gara, how are you, man?
I'm doing all right. I appreciate the kind words. Killing it is for a father with a young child at home is not something that I say about my life. I take it day by day. And if I just get through the day feeling like I'm not a total wreck, then it's a win. Everything is pass fail at this point.
I don't even know if I want a baby in 8 months. I mean, that's awesome.
I'm repping, by the way. I'm repping the little Michael Scott. So Michael Gary.
I love that. Yeah, man. I bet just like killing it. I mainly meant the vibes on Pat McAfee and Michael Penix Jr. comments. But that's it. That's all. I'm kidding.
Desmond Howard was the one that really kind of set me off. I was like, what are we doing here? The guy's been in college forever. His name is not Penix. It's Penix. All right. Like if you're going to get the entire crowd chanting or whatever, and if he's going to be the Heisman Trophy favorite, it's the same issue that I had with Devontae Smith a few years ago. If the guy's going to win a Heisman Trophy, let's say his freaking name right. Is it that hard to be able to say Devontae instead of Devonta? But people continue to say Devonta, not just you.
I was going to say, I didn't even know if you recognized that I did it because I still do it.
It's the Devonta Freeman thing. And I even think his was Devontae Freeman, but we just went with Devonta because that's the way that it's spelled. I digress. It's obviously a stupid hill to die on.
No, it's actually perfect because I'll spoil this for now just to tell everyone how well Connor and I know each other. In 2-minute drill later, the third question I've written down is, whose name is harder to pronounce, Michael Penix or Mark D'Antonio?
You're just confusing D'Antoni and D'Antonio.
Exactly.
D'Antonio is easy. If Mike D'Antoni had never come along, no one would ever stop to say Mark D'Antonio, who currently lives in Tampa. He takes in a lot of USF practices. He's boys with Alex Golish because Alex Golish was on the Ohio State staff back in the day. They live in the same neighborhood. He and Tressel, they all live in the same neighborhood, and they pop into USF practices. Yeah, there's a fun fact I didn't think you were getting today.
Not at all. Almost didn't want to have it when you started telling me about it. No, we'll talk a lot more about Jim Tressel later, but we're doing a midseason review, and it is, we're the halfway point, which sucks. I was typing out on our pod thing for later, week 8 preview, and I got sick to my stomach because it's just, I know it's been an awesome season too. There's been so many good weeks back to back to back, and we'll talk about all of it. But so just right off the bat, 2023. I think it's been better than any recent college football season from week in and week out than than I've seen in a while. Best moments, favorite moments so far from the season.
I think Washington, what it was able to do against Oregon last week, I thought that was a cool moment to see the build up, to see that game play out the way that it did, where it was one of those games where you just truly didn't feel like you knew who was going to win. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah.
I think we haven't seen the crazy upsets yet where a top 5 team is going down to an unranked team. That's why when people say it's 2007, we talked about this, I don't think it's 2007, but the good news is that the way that things have set up, and this will probably change in 2 weeks, this late into the season, every Power 5 conference feels like, oh, we're destined to make the playoff.
Right.
Everybody's going to make the playoff. Somebody's getting left out. Somebody's going to be running around those chairs. You don't run in musical chairs, but you walk fast. And somebody is going to be like, oh, crap. I don't have a seat. What am I going to do? And I don't know who that's going to be just yet. And I think that's kind of more so where the excitement lies. Not so much that we've had these crazy upsets or totally unpredictable things. But yeah, there are a lot of things you could bring up that I think have been really cool stories so far in the way that this season's played out.
I think, it's also been really cool is that I feel like a lot of times, especially when you get this so much buildup, right? So much, this is the game of the century, this game 1 versus 2 or what, whatever. It feels like every game for the most part has really lived up to the hype. Ohio State and Notre Dame was kind of a snooze fest for a couple of quarters, but what an ending. Bama, Texas was really good. Like you said, Washington and Oregon. that part has been really, really fun. And I think that like I don't know a season where I've seen this many big time games each week, and they all kind of live up to the hype. I mean, even A&M in Tennessee last week, you actually summed it up best. Like that was like one of the best Big Ten games I've ever watched. Like it was awesome, like from start to finish.
I actually said that about the Washington-Oregon game that ended at the same time, but it applies to both. Whatever. Let's just say that I said it for that one too.
I'll try to give you too much credit. No, I think you're right though. So like this wasn't actually in the notes, but you brought up the playoff. I thought about this the other day, and I don't think it's crazy, but like the SEC, right? If you're looking at like which conference has like the I don't want to say the worst chance to get in because it's the SEC, and we've never seen them not make the playoff and haven't been to I think it's been 17 or 18 years since we've seen like a postseason national championship or playoff without the SEC. So like obviously the resume is there, but if you're looking at the resumes from this season, I think like right now you would have to venture to say the SEC has the worst chance of getting in.
I don't know if I'd go there yet. I think I'd still probably say the Big 12 has the worst because, and I understand the Texas-Alabama thing would probably make that sound like an SEC homer take, but 16 of the last 17 years, the SEC champ has made it to the national championship. Right. I mean, that's something that is hard to ignore, that when it gets late in the season, like the games feel important. And while the SEC didn't necessarily help itself out in non-conference play, I still think it'll probably be in position to have its champ in the playoff. Now, who knows what that looks like if all of a sudden we're talking about a 2-loss West team, if all of these teams that are at the top right now stay undefeated, and it's like, oh man, there are 3 Power 5 undefeateds going into conference championship weekend. Obviously that changes things, but if I'm betting today, I'm still betting on the SEC to be able to have a team in the college football playoff, and probably the Big 12 would find a way out of it. In the ACC, like I love what Florida State's done. That's probably a moment I should have brought up. What they did that week 1 game against LSU, a game that I was at, was pretty incredible to see them kind of buy into everything off season that was said about like what they were capable of.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the ACC probably doesn't quite have that lock it in path just yet. Because maybe if FSU is a little bit vulnerable on the defensive end, that could probably come back to bite them. But yeah, man, it's good that it feels like it's all over the place because the sport needs to be more national. I think that's kind of the thing that non-Southeastern fan of college football, and I include the ACC in that, would probably say is good about the way that this year has played out.
Yeah, it cracks me up because like you'll see like on social media and Twitter and stuff like that, like so many people you could tell were introduced to Pac-12 After Dark for the first time this year, and just was like just a whole different world. But I think you're right. I think it has been really good for the sport. It's been really fun. I think like what I more so meant was that like if season ended today and you have all these undefeated teams, because if like some really seemingly, I think I don't want to say elite, but really really good teams, and like you said, a bunch of undefeateds in every single conference. Georgia's ranked number 1, but I think they probably have the worst resume besides maybe Michigan to get in. So, but you're right. At the same time, like I think LSU still has a chance to get in because if they run the table, they're going to keep winning games. They'd have to beat Bama. They'd have to beat Georgia. I just don't see the SEC being kept out of it necessarily.
The issue is the roadblock that FSU would possibly present if FSU was vying for that 4th seed with 1 loss. You can't put LSU in over FSU in that spot. Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out just yet because I do think that what they're doing offensively, it's a championship level offense. It's been so fun to watch what Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Logan Diggs, those guys have done. But that defense isn't good enough to probably get by undefeated. Like it's just not, unless they start to really figure some things out. And I'm not going to look too far into a 2-game stretch against Auburn and Army with what they do, throwing the forward pass, making it look like it's 1923. Army runs a new offense. It's a gun option. So like, take that for what it is. Army actually had a better passing offense last week than Auburn, like coming into that game, slightly better by like 0.4 yards. Yeah. So, I mean, don't sleep on the Black Knights, but yeah, I'm not gonna jump to conclusions if LSU puts the clamps on them.
I'm glad somebody finally said something about that because like, I know that 90% of the people that are going to tune into that game are going to be like, what in the hell? Where is the triple option? What is happening right now? All right, last question about the SEC before we move on. The SEC is the blank best conference in Power 5 football.
Yeah. tied for second with everybody else.
Okay, that's fair.
The Pac-12 is 1, and then it's everybody else. Like, if you actually break it down, the non-conference numbers against like Power 5 competition, the Pac-12 was the only one that really did well. Everybody else, if you kind of look at it, was all in the same spot. But the SEC, because it's the SEC, of course, was going to receive the most attention for not doing well. And so you kind of looked at it from that standpoint. The SEC was, I would argue, was the most disappointing. But at the same time, it's not like the Big Ten helped itself in non-conference play that much.
No.
You know what I mean? It's not like we saw, Ohio State had a nice win on the road at Notre Dame, but Michigan obviously like not playing anybody. Penn State not really playing anybody. I guess if you want to count West Virginia, all right, fine.
Right.
I'm not holding my breath on James Franklin winning a big-time game on the road. But yeah, I still look at this and I go, everybody's kind of in the same spot. There's not really a ton of separation. The Pac-12 has set itself up the best it has, but the 9-game conference schedule with them, you just always kind of wonder, are they going to cannibalize themselves? I picked Washington to go to the playoff this year. If we want to talk about best takes, that was like one of the things I had.
That was the next question.
Oh, there we go. So I'll just pat myself on the back for that one. But yeah, I do feel like it's kind of the Pac-12 and then everybody else. If you're just talking about conference supremacy, I would probably give them the edge right now.
It's so weird too, because like everyone keeps talking about how bad the SEC or the quarterback plays in the SEC, and like it's not historically bad by any means at all. But top to bottom, it's not been like great, especially as in comparison to like recent years. But like, I mean, you and I were still doing the pod when it was like Jared Garantano was a top 3 quarterback in my
top
book.
3. Some would say a top 3 quarterback in the SEC. I personally wouldn't say that. I would. I was more of a Malik Willis guy back in the day, but Jared Garantano in the top 3 was a popular take that gained a lot of traction.
It was something, that's for sure. Anytime I start feeling myself and get a little confident, I try to remind myself of that take. But okay, so that was my next question though, because like obviously midseason you can look back at some of the stuff, and it's so difficult before the season starts what we think we know, and like just absolute truths, right? Georgia gonna three-peat, like Bama's gonna the offensive line at Bama's gonna be, I don't know, above average even. Pepper says hello.
What up, Pepper?
But that being said, it's like what were you most right about, and what were you also most wrong about?
I think I was most right about LSU losing the 2 games that it did in September. That was one thing that I was banging the drum saying, look, the offense is great. I'm excited to see what they can do. But this Harold Perkins experiment, the way that the schedule sets up, it's not going to benefit them with the weakness that they have in the secondary. And that played out in a more extreme way than I expected. I didn't think that they were going to allow 700 yards of offense at Ole Miss. But when I said that in the preseason that they were going to lose against Florida State and they were going to lose at Ole Miss, I took a lot of heat for that, being like, how could you doubt this team? LSU has playoff upside. And I was like, I think they're a 9-3 team. I think they're really good. I just think they have a weakness that we're kind of overlooking. So that was a good one. Saying the Joe Milton hype was way overblown. I guess I was right on that. I thought it was a joke that he was preseason All SEC, a guy who's lost his starting job twice, but that was more about the circumstances around him than the player that he was or that he had proven to be so far. And then, gosh, where do we want to start with where I was wrong? I have so many wrong takes. I'm like, I'll name a couple here, and then when I come up with one, I'll just like I'll just like bring it up randomly. Devin Leary finishing as an All SEC quarterback.
Ooh, I was on that train.
Way wrong on that one. South Carolina finishing second in the East. Way wrong on that one. Mississippi State winning 8 games. Way wrong on that one. Bobby Petrino as a Broyles Award finalist. It hasn't been a disaster offensively with what A&M's done, but not going to be right on that one.
You don't have to keep throwing yourself under the bus.
No, that's fun. Let's do it. What else we got? I had, what did I say? I said KJ Jefferson was going to be at one of the top 5 NFL quarterback prospects by season's end.
That sucks. That one sucks because like I just hate the way his season's like played out. I mean, like, so I actually got a phone call from both of our listeners this week, and she was actually telling me how right you were about the Joe Milton thing. And it sounds like we were in total agreement on that. I just didn't understand the hype around the fact that just because he throws the ball far, all of a sudden he's going to be a great quarterback. It's going to translate. And then the other thing too, I still don't think I'm completely off base here. I still think he's going to be a high draft pick. I think that once enough time has passed and people stop watching tape, like they should be doing, NFL scouts are going to see him throw a ball and hit the ceiling like Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
And then like throw all the money at him.
And here's the awkward thing too. Like if let's just say hypothetically, and I'm not predicting this result, but if they lose and it's because of Joe Milton at Alabama, the chance for Nico Iamaleava, crushing that pronunciation, no big deal.
It's actually Devonta.
I had to listen to Joe Test say Iamaleava in the opener, and I was just like, Joe, come on, man, we're better. You're better than this. You're a pro. It's in the bio. It's right there. You can find the pronunciation guide. But I think the chance for him will be significantly louder because once you suffer that second loss, and that's the issue for Josh Heupel, is you kind of want to see you want to get. He needs to start getting guys in the NFL at the quarterback position who are in the NFL in getting NFL paychecks, because that's kind of the knock against him of, well, why isn't he considered one of the 2 or 3 best offensive minds in the sport? And I think you could make a really good case. 5 consecutive top 8 offenses probably won't get that this year. But if you bench that guy, it's a different story. And if you turn to a true freshman, that's a tough sell. I don't know how many guys sat for like the final month of their career and then went to the NFL draft and then I became a mid-round pick or something like that. So that's the other thing you kind of got to weigh. And I think Florida weighed some of that with Anthony Richardson last year and the way that played out. So yeah, it's a tricky thing to have to navigate. But I'm out on Joe Milton. I'm just out.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It is gonna be an interesting situation. I got asked today if he would finish the season as a starter, like you were talking about. I think that Heupel will be too loyal to him.
I agree.
And it's just because I don't know what the upside is by starting a true freshman that hasn't played a game against Bama, Georgia, Kentucky, and those people on the schedule.
I think what he could do, and this could be a call that I had in the preseason that would actually be right, is I think Nico could start the UConn game.
Oh, okay.
That would be an interesting way to kind of be like, all right, let's give the fans what they want, and also not bench a guy that. Let's be honest. I mean, Josh Heupel was calling Joe Milton back when he was the OC at Mizzou. Yeah. He was saying, hey, do you see what I'm doing with Drew Lock? You can come do that at Mizzou. Back when he was in high school, you call him after every high school game. He wants to see this through. He really does. The problem is I just don't think it's there. And like you kind of at this point are pot committed.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right. One more question, then we'll get to 2-minute drill. I was gonna say we should I'll tell you what I was most right and wrong about. I think I was most right about I think I said USC was probably the 3rd best team in the Pac-12.
Like that.
Thought they were tremendously overrated. LSU probably where I was right and wrong because I was not sold on LSU just because the offense was going to return all these and I want to see them stack years, which we haven't seen them do in a while. But I didn't think Jaden Daniels was going to be able to replicate the season he had a year ago. 28 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's tough to do in general. And we're at the halfway point, and he's already surpassed almost all those numbers. And it's been awesome to watch. Like Brian, now I'm drawing a blank on the name. Brian Thomas. I think that he has made that kid a star. He's a very talented receiver, right? But Jaden Daniels has turned him into an absolute star. Malik Neighbors has been awesome. That whole offense is incredible.
Brian Thomas was the guy that coming into this year, I said, if Jaden Daniels has turned the corner, if he is this guy that isn't just locked in on his first read and he's going to tuck it and run, if he is trusting that offense, Brian Thomas is going to be the guy that's going to benefit the most. Now, Malik Neighbors has had himself an All-American season. He's leading the country in receiving. He is ridiculous. I love watching him. But Brian Thomas was the guy who you're like, okay, well, he's not going to get separation in the same way that Malik Neighbors probably will. You're not going to look at what he's doing pre-snap and say, oh, I've got Malik Neighbors in the slot on a linebacker or on a safety that can't cover him. I'm going to attack that all day. You kind of had to look at Brian Thomas as more of okay, I need to just trust that guy in certain spots. Maybe he's my second read. I'm going to go let him make a play. And Jaden Daniels has done that so much more. And I remember Ed Ogeron saying coming into the 2021 season hey, this guy's the next great LSU receiver. And what he has turned into has been so fun to watch. Another thing you were right about, you had Texas beating Bama in the preseason. Did you not?
That was the easiest call. Not only was that, hold on, not only was I spot on about that, I said they were going to lose by 10 plus points. And I all the reasons were there. I'm not happy I was that right about it, but it was, I guess I did nail that one.
Emotional hedging. Yeah.
That's not what that one was. I swear. Okay. No. So last one before we get into 2-minute drill. If you had a chance to go back and redo, I don't know what your preseason picks were for the playoff, but as of today, give me that, or choose your own adventure, or one bold take for the second half of the year.
I'd stick with 3 of my 4. I had Georgia, Ohio State, Washington, Clemson. I'd swap out Clemson for Florida State. I think, did I have Florida State ranked ahead of Clemson in the preseason? If I didn't, I had them like one spot behind, and I should have. I should have just pulled the trigger on Florida State. And then I saw him week 1 in person. I was like, Connor, you're the biggest idiot in the world. Why did you fall for the Garrett Riley hype? Why did you tell yourself that Will Shipley was going to be a Heisman candidate? Like, why did you do these things to yourself? You're so stupid.
I would have talked you out of that one.
I like
white running backs going to go to New York. Actually, that was dumb because 2 of them probably should have won.
Christian McCaffrey, Toby Gerhardt. I don't know. We get it.
I walked into that one.
But yeah, I would probably still stay with my original 3, and then I would just put in, gosh, you know what? I think I'd put in Oklahoma instead of Florida State. I think I would. I love what Oklahoma's done. I thought that was my lock of the week against Texas. And I was a year wrong on the play. I had them going to the playoff last year.
Yeah.
And they've done everything that I thought they would do last year. They've done it this year instead. It's why you shouldn't write off year 1 coaches, because what they've done in year 2 with Brent Venables, man, they've been really fun to watch.
Yeah. Like in every single phase of the game too. I'll give you, instead of my playoff picks, I'll give you a bold take. I think LSU wins the SEC. I don't think Bama's offense can keep up with them, even if Bama does beat Tennessee this weekend. And I don't think Georgia's good enough to hang with them for 60 minutes. Because like that's one thing about Georgia is they're really good, but they aren't consistent enough. I feel like through 60 minutes, like we've seen in the past. But also every time we think that about Georgia halfway through the season, once the lights shine brightest, that's when they're at their best anyway. So, all right, let's get into 2-minute drill. Haven't done this in a while. The drill. I didn't like that. We'll put 2 minutes on the clock. Are you ready?
Give me. All right, now I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. What are you more tired of, Deion Sanders or Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce?
I'm not tired. I'm not really tired of either. Is that bad? I thought you were going to say Deion or McAfee, which I was asking.
I'm not touching McAfee because I love him.
All right. I'll say I'm more tired of the people who hate on T Swift and Travis Kelce. So I guess I'm more tired of that. But I'm like a borderline Swiftie. So I don't really. I'm probably not your guy for a definitive take on that.
Listen, I've seen her twice. She's fantastic. All right, number 2. Also, the Pat McAfee thing, he's fine. But when people like Desmond start doing big Penix energy and trying to be like that, makes it way worse. Anyway, number 2, I already asked this question, so we can move right past it. Number 3, whose name is hard to pronounce? Michael Penix.
Michael Penix.
Or spell Mark D'Antonio.
DANTONIO. Mark D'Antonio.
You missed the apostrophe, so that's gonna cost
There's no apostrophe. As a guy who has an apostrophe in his last name, let me tell you, I know the apostrophe guys. Mike D'Antoni has an apostrophe because he's Italian.
This is why I didn't share the doc with you.
Yeah, that's fair.
And look at me, I actually made a doc.
How about that?
All grown up.
Look at that.
All right, number 4, next bucket list interview for you on the SDS pod.
Oh, that's good. I think a lot of people like, and you get this question all the time too. People would think like, oh, it'd be great to have Saban or great to have Kirby. Like, no, I don't. The one I've been chasing for a while is Spurrier.
I was going to say, yeah.
Spurrier is the one that I've been trying. Like, I've tried to go through a few different people to set that up, and like still kind of working on that. That is currently my white whale for sure.
Yeah. You talking about doing a book about that too.
That project that hit the back burner in a hurry. The source list is still there, the very beginnings of it, but I got to do that before he turns 80.
Oh, geez. Number 5, one fond or favorite memory from when we hosted the SDS pod.
Oh, live show before the SEC championship, 2019, College Football Hall of Fame. Shout out College Football Hall of Fame. Love the people there. That was such a cool night. Like, we stayed out until, little peel behind the onion, we stayed out until like 3 or 4 that night with listeners, and just it wasn't like, this like drunken stumbling from bar to bar. It was just like one of those cool nights where I think so rarely in this profession do we really get to kind of soak it in that people give a crap about what we have to say. And that was one of those cool nights where we can kind of just like sit back and just enjoy, like have a really cool product, have people that come out that want to, and hear what we have to say and and really enjoy that. That whole weekend was fun. Now, waking up on like 3 hours of sleep and having to write a Lane Kiffin column the next day was not as fun, but everything that went into that. Yeah.
All right. Number 6. What's a show you binged this offseason?
Ooh.
I feel like you're not a big binge TV guy.
I am. That's incorrect. God, do I say something that's embarrassing, or do I say something that's actually?
Yes.
The Summer I Turned Pretty was one that we binged.
I almost started it, but I didn't get to it.
Just don't. It'll make you mad. That was not my first choice. Rewatched New Girl for the 3rd time. New Girl's a great show. That's a great comedy.
I don't understand how that's not syndicated.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. It's got more than enough episodes. Should be syndicated. Maybe Fox has some sort of weird stranglehold on that. I don't know how that works, but was starting. What else we got? Love is Blind. I'm in the midst of the new season. No spoilers, please. What else we got? Obviously, Great British Baking Show. That's a given. Yeah, I mean there are a few like that I'm probably forgetting right now, but like especially on paternity leave, we were like kind of in binge city. It was New Girl. That was the show of choice for a hot minute. We need to get a new show though. Like I've been telling Lauren that for a bit now. I was like, we need to kind of like broaden our horizons just a touch, like not a crazy amount.
Yeah.
The Summer I Turned Pretty was not the direction I was hoping we would go in, but whatever.
Okay, we're in minute 11 of 2-minute drill. We got 3 more questions for you. We'll get you out of here. Top 3 artists on your Spotify right now. I've come around on John Party.
Look at that.
He's not bad. He's not bad. On Morgan Wallen, but he's not bad.
Morgan Wallen has been so hit or miss the last 2 years. It's been wildly disappointing. He puts out too many songs. His music is saturated.
37-song album? Like, what are you doing?
It's like, stop messing around with hip hop beats and just stick to what you do best. But whatever. I digress. The 2 obvious ones: John Party, Chris Stapleton. I've been getting into a lot of Zach Bryan lately.
Yeah.
Had a nice long run today. It was just like pretty much all Zach Bryan. So that's probably my top 3 right now. And then Eric Church, that's a given. But like, yeah, those would be my 3 or 4.
I've never been big into Eric Church. I've been really big into Zach Bryan though. Okay, let's see here. 2 more. One thing, team, or player we aren't talking enough about.
Mizzou. Yeah. Also, Mizzou's the obvious one. Yeah.
I like that. Go-to cheat meal.
Oh.
It's going to be something with peanut butter, I feel like.
No, I've actually laid off that for a bit. Mexican food. Oh, yeah. We got a place, El Potro, by us. Enchiladas rancheras. I'm trying to improve my Spanish for daughter's daycare.
Summer I Turned Pretty and learn, get a Babbel or something like that.
Oh, there we go. It's a good idea. I actually talked about doing something like that. That would actually make a lot of sense.
I like it. Last question, my man. I appreciate you coming on here. Senior national columnist, tremendous success, still in phenomenal shape, great husband, good friend, all the things. How does it feel to be a dad?
Man, I appreciate you saying that. It feels great. It feels great. Every day is a battle. And even with a kid that's been so good to us. I mean, she sleeps through the night. She smiles constantly. It's so easy to get her to laugh. You see like a new side of your spouse that comes out that you just like, that's like really mushy thing to say. Like you just, you see these things in your partner that you're just like, man, like this experience is incredible. It's great. I absolutely love it. There are points in which I think to myself, like, oh my God, like I just signed up for a life of this. She's not just going to stay that size forever. Right. The running joke in our household is like, how long will it take for her to be taller than me?
Why do you always do this?
Marler, she is in the 92nd percentile of height already. She is growing like a tree.
She's like 4 months old, right?
She is already like showing signs
that she's 12 feet tall.
Look, I'm not going to rule it out. I think she's going to be 6 feet tall. Like I truly think that. She got Lauren's height. So far, Lauren's brain, she's really cerebral. So yeah, we're very fortunate, doing well. Sleep it could be a whole lot worse. I'm very grateful for that. Hopefully we don't get any sort of teething regression that's coming up in the near future, but it's great, man. It's everything everybody says it is.
That's awesome, man. I've also I'm going to out myself here. I've been sending Lauren Venmo money just so she'll tell the baby repeatedly, Penix, and that'll be her first word, just to drive you crazy. All right, my man. I know you got to go. I'm sorry we're late. I really enjoyed it. I would say we can plug the pod, but we do it every week anyway. But tell everyone where they can find you, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, appreciate that. We got plugs on each other's pods, so people are probably like, "Hey, like what am I listening to right now?" Like they're just confused. They're in a little SDS
warp. That's everyone up.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. Saturday Down South podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. We're on YouTube as well. You can watch all of our episodes if you want to see me scratch my nose or something like a million times. I've been battling the daycare sniffles for the last 7-8 weeks. So yeah, we're everywhere that you can get this podcast. That's where you can get ours as well.
Love it, dude. I appreciate it. I know you got to run. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks to Connor for coming on the show. A little cross-pollination there. Let's get into the week's games, Chris. I think I want to start with the most exciting one on the docket. And that would be Iowa and Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be – I'm going to try to bring this back for a third time. Really commit to this time.
So we're going to do a little bit something interesting because this game, I mean, Chris, the total on this game is 32.5.
32.5. 32.5 points for this game.
You've got number 24 Iowa, who somehow has won 8 straight games against Minnesota, but in general, they're 5-0. Or 5, they've lost a game, but they're 5-0 in games decided by 10 points or less because they can't score points, Chris. I don't know if you've known that.
That's like one of the main things about them. Corn, I think, right? That's Corn's there, or that's a Nebraska thing too. Corn Fields. Maybe it's just the fields that are there.
The cool children's hospital that they have, and then also the inability to score points and having a great defense. Caden McNamara, who transferred to Michigan, quarterback, he's already out for the year towards ACL. The other Michigan transfer they got, Eric All, the tight end, who was having a good year for them. I think all things considered, Iowa literally has one of the worst offenses in the country.
Yes.
He had 21 catches, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns. He tore his ACL against Wisconsin last week. So this offense is just getting worse and worse. Minnesota's offense isn't great either, though. So
no, it's arguably just as bad.
Minnesota lost 3 of 4 following a 2-0 start. So they're coming off a bye. I want to say this is Iowa's 8th straight game. I don't even think they've had a bye week, and they're 6-1.
Are we going to do the drunk history part?
We are.
Oh.
Before we get into our prediction for the game, we want to get into a little drunk history with Uncle Chris.
We're going to start doing this once a week. And I think we all love college football a bunch, and I like nerding out on it. And there's one thing I love more than anything. It's making fun of dumb, stupid traditions. And there's a bunch.
Especially in the Big Ten.
Especially in the Big Ten. And I'm not going to do the whole thing about all the rivalry trophies because I'll do a video about it later because there's just so many of them. They're like, I pulled this up the other day. I was looking at this. There's 16 total Big Ten football rivalry trophies. I don't even know what this one is. Minnesota and Nebraska play for something called the 5 Bits of Broken Chair trophy.
Classic. Every year.
Every year. Like all of them are like, it's just old housewares for the most part. Every single trophy here seems like somebody woke up the day of the game and they were supposed to have made this trophy far in advance. And on the way to the game, they stopped at like a fucking Cracker Barrel or I don't know, Hobby Lobby, and was like, I'll just get this jug and put an M on it and just tell people it's like fancy or something.
Or I think it was like more so probably something that could be actually used and was in high demand. So guy wakes up late and he's like, we've been in a famine and people really need jugs for water to conserve what water they do come up with.
Yeah.
And
famine.
We're going to put this up as a trophy for this game.
They honestly,
for some people, they are fighting for their will to live.
because they're watching fucking Iowa football. Honestly, like these are so bad, but also the Big Ten is so like hell bent on making like tradition and how important it is. I really just wish one of these teams, like the least important, like Rutgers, we'll just slip in but we have a trophy game too every year with we do it with Wisconsin, and the winner gets a $20 Starbucks gift card, and we've always done it. Like we've always. And
we also have the sword.
Yeah,
we can put the sword up. Get it engraved.
Yeah,
whatever.
Okay, so this trophy specifically, there's 2 trophy games this weekend. Michigan and Michigan State play for the Paul Bunyan Trophy, which I'll talk a little bit about that later. But today we're going to learn about, coming to here class, drunk history, the Floyd of Rosedale. The Floyd of Rosedale. Do you know what that is? That is the award, the major award that is given to the winner of Iowa, Minnesota. I never have thought about Iowa, Minnesota being a rivalry at all. If you told me they'd never played, I would have believed you, which makes no sense because of the conferences, obviously. But just something I've never thought about ever in my life.
Played 116 times.
A ton. So it's one of the oldest rivalries in the country. Like you said, Iowa has won 8 in a row. So a little history lesson on this. The trophy, like I said, is called the Floyd of Rosedale. This is the tradition of where it stemmed from. In 1934, a game between the Hawkeyes and Golden Gophers. It was filled with some controversy because star halfback Ozzie Simmons, the Ozman, he was just fucking living the good life. His name was Ozzie, and The Wizard of Oz had just come out.
Dude. Yeah. Killing it on campus.
Just getting so many holding hands from all the ladies in town. Simmons was one of the few black football players of that era, and several rough hits by the Gophers on Simmons forced him to leave the game multiple times in Minnesota's 48-12 victory. So basically, he was a black player playing for Iowa. Minnesota, I guess they were filled with racists, and they kept hitting him late and injured him a bunch of times. And they were also up by 36. So what it amounted to was that they were piling on late hits. Simmons recalled, I had bruised ribs. They came at me with knees high. That's weird to do. And it seemed obvious. Also, the knees high thing is the only thing I can think of is all those stupid ass old media day pictures where it's some white guy in a bowl cut and he's
yeah,
you don't need to bring your knees to tackle. But anyway, the following year, Coach Bernie Bierman, perfect name, they were going to play. They were both undefeated. So before the 1935 game, Iowa, Minnesota contest in Iowa City, Bierman received a flood of threatening letters from angry Iowa fans from the year before. So basically, Iowa fans threatened
carrier pigeon.
Yeah, I swear to God, when this thing finally rings through, imagine having all that anger still in you just from a landline. So anyway, so the next year, Iowa fans started. They sent death threats to Minnesota's coach, and he requested and received special police protection for the team when it detrained in Iowa a couple days before the contest. The day before the game, Iowa Governor Clyde Herring told reporters its officials stand for rough tactics like Minnesota did last year. I'm sure the crowd won't. Basically saying if the refs didn't call or allowed anything to happen like they happened the year before where their players were hurt, he encouraged the fans to go out on the field and handle it themselves.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah. So he said, we're going to come out of the stands. The news quickly reached Minnesota, which I'm sure it didn't. It probably took several weeks. Then the Minnesota Attorney General. This also is the weirdest fucking back and forth. The governor and the Attorney General, you're not important enough for this to matter. They said, your remark that the crowd at the Iowa-Minnesota game will not stand for rough tactics. You're inciting a riot. Here we go. This is like a prequel to January 6th. Just a joke, guys. Just a joke. So to lighten the mood of all the things that are happening.
They're going to pick the score of this game.
To lighten the mood, Minnesota Governor Floyd Olson sent a telegram the day of on game day morning. He said, we're excited to come there. We're trying to get your goat, but instead of a goat, I will bet you a Minnesota prize hog against your own Iowa prize hog that Minnesota wins. Now, I don't need to get into why this was the decision, but I didn't know there were multiple states with prize hogs. I assumed that would have been a one state thing.
Oh yeah, every state's got a prized hog.
Is that like a spelling bee type thing, or like a Miss America, where it's there's one little competitions for the prize in each state?
Yeah, bro. You ever heard of 4-H?
I mean, yeah, I never thought. Is it just but only one hog wins?
In 1935, yeah.
Oh, geez, okay.
This is
A lot of pressure right on that thing.
There's a lot of common knowledge here.
So anyway, they bet a hog. This is the best part. They decided they would bring this fucking hog or whatever to the game. The Gophers won. They had clean, hard-fought play, blah, blah, blah. And also they won the second national championship. So when they got the hog or the pig or whatever it is, they took it back to Minnesota, and Iowa then decided, Governor Herring said it violated Iowa gambling laws.
Mm.
So after they made this fun little wager, the Iowa governor went back on his word and said violated gambling laws. And
the hog back.
Yes, they had to get the hog back. So then there were people. This went on for like fucking weeks. There was a court case about it. They finally declined to prosecute. FDR's son-in-law was also at the game, and then tried to slip in and make them change the name of it to after himself, which was nice. Anyway, they finally resolved the entire thing, and what they did was, since neither team could take the hog because it was illegal, literally illegal, they decided to give it away to an essay writing contest. And some 14-year-old named Robert Jones won a statewide essay writing contest and got to take the hog home, and they lived happily ever after. And when I say happily ever after, Tyler, I mean he died 8 weeks later because they didn't give him his vaccination shots, and it died on their farm.
Mm.
And now they have a trophy.
I thought you meant the 14-year-old died.
Probably. That was fucking 1934. He probably lived for like another 6 years before he got polio. Anyway, they decided, since they can't give away hogs anymore and no hogs or prizes, they made a statue out of this, and it is 98 pounds. 98 pounds.
To resemble the weight of the original hog?
And the weight of the world that rests on Iowa and Minnesota's collective shoulders. Anyway, that was very long-winded, but it was fascinating nonetheless.
Love that. So what's the bet on this game? In the last 14 games, this game has gone under 10 times. I'm going under. I don't care if it's 32.5. I'm going under on the game.
Mm.
I think Iowa's defense is legitimately good. I think Minnesota's defense will probably look good in this game just because it's Iowa's offense. I'm gonna go Iowa 14-10. Let's go.
I kind of want to put Iowa money line as like one of my best picks of the week. But also I think that Minnesota is probably more dynamically coached. Like they're capable of more things. Minnesota's also 14-4 on the road since 2019, not including the COVID year. 14-4 on road games under PJ Fleck. But they were 0-2 this year. Iowa's offense, like we said, is like really, really bad. Everyone knows that, but Minnesota's, like you mentioned earlier, is arguably just as bad. They rank 112th or worse in 3 of the major 4 statistical categories: scoring offense 112th, passing offense 130, and their total offense 121. So Iowa, listen, they failed to put up more than 26 points in 11 of their last 12. They just cannot put points up on the board. That being said, they've only given up more than 20 twice in that same span. So I will say Iowa at home. Minnesota hasn't beaten a ranked team since 2019, and Iowa is ranked technically. I hate it. I'm going to pick Iowa. I'm going to pick Iowa to win this game. Take that stupid fucking trophy.
All right. Where should we go from there after that exhilarating matchup? Auburn?
Yeah. Let's go to Auburn-Ole Miss.
All right. This game is 7 o'clock. Number 13, Ole Miss at Auburn. 6.5 is the total, or is the spread for Ole Miss currently. Total 56.5. Where are we going here? Because one of the bets I like from this game that I'll probably include, first quarter total 13 points.
You like the over on that?
I do.
So I'm going to take Auburn. I'm going to take Ole Miss. I think to score first would be a bet that I would make. They're coming off a bye. There's not enough data really to tell me whether or not that's a strength or a weakness for Kiffin, because he's lost his last 2 games coming off a bye at Ole Miss, but they were both to Alabama. Going to Jordan Hare is very difficult. We all know it's become like a cliche almost at this point. But it's also very real. And you look at just from the numbers to support that. Like, I don't think there's like some crazy juju that's going to, keep Auburn or help them win this game. I know that they played Georgia really close. They played LSU really close a couple of years ago or last year, and they played Bama in 4 overtimes the year before that. One thing all those games have in common, in addition to playing close, is they lost. So 6.5 points still seems weird because it feels like it could be higher, but it is tough to go on the road and win the SEC. Here's my thing with this game. I think that it's going to be close early, and maybe for the first 3 quarters, because of everything I just mentioned. And Auburn plays way better at home versus on the road. Their offense is terrible too, just like Iowa, as we talked about. Auburn hasn't put up more than 20 points or had over 300 yards in any game versus Power 5 opponents this season. Not one. Their differential in points scored and yards gained at home versus away, they average 27 more points per game at home. They average 212 more yards per game at home. But again, the offense is bad. And it's not like Ole Miss's defense is great. But you look at Auburn, they scored 8 touchdowns in their first game of the season against UMass. They scored 8. They played 4 games against the FBS opponents since then, and they've scored a total of 7. So I think it's close for a while. But I think that Ole Miss is good enough and better than them to pull away. And I also think Lane Kiffin is a big enough and petty dickhead to run it up late. So I think Ole Miss covers that.
I do too. Auburn can't throw the ball at all, which is just so happens to be where the weakness is on Ole Miss's defense.
Yeah.
They actually are pretty good at stopping the run. They're giving up 3.3 yards per attempt. So if Auburn can't run the ball against this defense, I don't know how they could cover the 6.5. I'm going to go 34-24 Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think it's I was going to say 34-20 or 34-17.
Okay. Well, that'd be a good road win for Ole Miss, who's quietly chugging along. I didn't even really realize that they're up to number 13 in the country.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Anyway. All right. Where do we want to go from here?
Up to you. Or here, I'll do it. Why don't we go here? Let's go. No, that one kind of sucks. Why don't we do this one? USC and Utah. Pretty interesting game.
Yeah, so this is a 8:00 game. Number 18 USC versus number 14 Utah. USC is a 6.5 point favorite at home. Total 56. What's USC's mentality like? First off,
yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead and assume Cam Rising just isn't playing this year. I go into every game with Utah thinking that he's not playing now at this point. So
yeah,
I will assume the same here. Which gives me hope for USC. I mean, they looked horrible on offense against Notre Dame, but I think that's a little bit of an aberration. And I think
the 7 turnovers was
that's not going to happen every game. Right. And as bad as USC's defense is, and I still think they'll give up points in this game, I just don't know that it's bad enough to where their offense can't outpace Utah. And so Utah typically plays USC pretty well. Obviously, They did last year twice. So I think Utah can stay within the number. I'll take USC 30, Utah 24.
Okay, so I think this is interesting for a lot of reasons because it feels like a little bit of a trap to want to take USC. They've struggled at a decent amount this year, not just with the Notre Dame thing. It's just a more glaring mistake against Notre Dame. I will tell you that they obviously lost to them twice last year. Caleb Williams is coming off his worst game of his entire college career. There's got to be a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, and I think he is good enough to will teams to wins. And if you look at what these teams have done with Caleb Williams and also with Lincoln Riley as a whole in his career, coming off a loss, coming off a regular season loss, Lincoln Riley teams are 29-2 for the rest of the regular season after that. They lost that game last year by 1 point to Utah and went on a tear, right? They did the same thing, remember, at Oklahoma several times. And I think that when you look at what Utah did last year, because I don't want to doubt Utah, and I don't want to doubt Kyle Willingham, ever. That being said, They won those 2 games last year. They put up 40 points both times. They put up over 500 yards of offense both times. This Utah team is not going to do that. They're going to play really good defense.
Right.
But you also look at like what they've done on the road this year, away from home. They beat a 2-4 Baylor team, like down to the wire by 7, and then they got beat by 14 and only put up 7 points against Oregon State. Again, those games last year came rising through for 310 and 424 yards in those 2 games. They haven't thrown for over 200 yards in a single game this year. I just like those 2 games for Rising last year combined 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Utah has 4 passing touchdowns total for this entire season. Ugh. So I think, it's bad. I think USC comes back and proves a point and is able to at least rally for this game because I also don't think Utah's that good. I got USC. I will say 34. Actually, I'll say 38 to 21. I don't like that at all, actually.
Would you like to amend?
Yeah, I would like to amend. Thank you. USC 31 to 20.
Okay. So still covered.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's do one that's an interesting game in the ACC.
Yeah.
You got Clemson-Miami. It's a 8:00 kick. Clemson is at Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson favored by 3.5, total 55. There's been some rumors that Tyler Van Dyke is injured. Someone came out locally and said that they basically saw him with like a wrap around his leg, and Mario Cristobal was like, yeah, he'll be fine. Which just Cristobal is just so unlikable.
He's becoming worse and worse, huh?
He really is. If I knew Van Dyke was playing, I'll just assume he is. I really don't know. At this point, it's only rumor. I like the offense of Miami's better than Clemson's.
Okay.
That being said, I think Clemson's still got a really good defense. I like this game to be low scoring. Well, at least under the total. I think Miami will cover this game. Huh? If Miami loses this game, they don't really have a home field advantage. So they haven't won an ACC game yet at home under Cristobal.
Right.
That's oof. This is a must-win game for Miami. Like UNC game felt like it was must-win, but you could still recover. This is an absolute must-win. That's why I think they're playing Van Dyke in this game. They've got to have it. I don't think they're gonna have enough firepower though. If he's injured and he's not playing as well as he can, I don't see how they can score a ton on this Clemson defense. And I think Clemson makes enough plays towards the end of the game to come out with a victory, but I think it'll be close. I actually think Miami will cover the game. I'm going to take Clemson 26-24.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to go into this with as little. I approached this game with, I found one stat that I wanted to convince me of what I already believe.
Clemson off a bye too, by the way.
Bingo. Clemson's coming off a bye, and they are 13-2 coming off a bye week under Dabo Swinney and winning those games by an average of 17 points per game. Miami's coming off 2 losses, so I don't know how confident they can be. And like you said, they're not going into a hostile environment or anything like that. I think that Clemson is still a place that they can block out the outside noise and also, like we've seen in the past, get better on a bye week and kind of regroup. Like, I felt good about how they looked against Syracuse. After I felt really good how they looked against Florida State. They probably should have won that game several times.
Oh, yeah.
But then Wake Forest at home, you win by 5, 17. Like, I don't.
Yeah, Wake is not good this year.
No. And I don't like the defense has been really, really good. They've given up 300 yards of offense only twice this year. Think about how good Florida State's offense is. They held them to 311 yards. So I think Clemson, again, coming off the bye, is the better team and should be able to go down there and win. It's almost weird to me that the line is that low. So I think there's value there. I'm still going to take the money line because I think it's only at minus 140. Clemson, I'll say 27 to 21.
Okay. Yeah, as a Florida State fan, it would be hilarious to see Miami lose. It would also be hilarious to see Clemson immediately lose after Dabo's like, well, maybe we should lose a few games. Start this week.
Yeah.
By the way, since 2004, these teams have played, 8 times, and Clemson has only not covered 1 time.
Nice, like that.
So that's interesting. Stay in the ACC, big matchup here.
This should be, man. Like, I hate that Riley Leonard's not playing in this game.
I don't. So the line would suggest that he's not, or maybe it's suggesting that even if he does play, the biggest part of his game that makes him special is his legs.
No, the line is telling you he's not playing.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Still being listed as day-to-day. I would agree with you. I don't think he's playing either.
14 points is a lot.
It is. It's come down to 13 now, but it is a 7:30 game. Number 4 Florida State versus number 16 Duke. Total 49. Florida State currently 13-point favorite. I think Florida State. I've been a little disappointed in Jordan Travis here. I won't lie. I think he's a little more injured than whatever is being led on. I think he got mostly dinged up in that Clemson game, or no, the Boston College game, and he hasn't really been the same since.
Right.
I don't know that. So Duke's defense, like by all metrics, whether advanced or just normal counting stats, is like one of the top 5 to 10 in the country, depending on what stat you're looking at.
Right.
Duke's defense has been really good. They've played a Notre Dame team that was coming off of an Ohio State loss, who was missing a bunch of receivers, and they played Clemson at the beginning of the year, who doesn't really have very good receivers, and then they've played a whole mess of people that aren't good at all.
A whole mess of them.
NC State, UConn, and I don't think that Duke has seen the level of receiver that Florida State has. Johnny Wilson should be back for this game. Just sitting out last week. Obviously, you got Keon Coleman, who's making special plays every week. Florida State's defense is improving every week, and I think they've finally figured out the personnel they like and the kind of scheme they're going to go with. They figured something out in the second half of that Clemson game, and they've been really good ever since. Some of that is the teams they've played. And also I don't think Duke has only played away from home once.
Yeah.
And it was against UConn.
Yeah.
So this is a night game in Tallahassee. It's homecoming. There's going to be a lot of people at this game. It's going to be rowdy. I just really respect what I think Duke's going to come in with a really good game plan. I think they'll keep it close. I think Florida State will ultimately win the game, but I think Duke can cover. So I'm going to go Florida State 30, Duke 23.
Okay. So I really like Duke a lot, and with Riley Leonard, I mentioned a couple weeks ago where each team was at, that I thought they were good enough to beat like that Week 4 Bama team, especially. I don't think Riley Leonard's playing. This has been a really fun story, but we haven't talked enough about, just because,
there's been a lot of fun stories. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, like this is like you're 2.5 minutes from them being undefeated. And if Riley Leonard's back to that UNC game, that is one of the best games of the year in that conference. Mm-hmm. Florida State, I thought this was interesting. It shouldn't be because Florida State is a dominant program, especially over teams like Duke, like historically. But I thought it was interesting. They've won the last 10 in a row against Duke. So even when Florida State has struggled, they have not struggled against Duke. 10-0 in their last 10 against them, 8-2 against the spread. The 14 is way too high for me. It's way too high for me. But I do think that you're in a situation where Florida State has, at times, when the spotlight has been on, they have shown up, and they did it against LSU. They've done a really good job of making adjustments in the second half of games, especially. Clemson was tough, and I think that's a hurdle that maybe was just like a mental obstacle they had to get over. But they've been really good, and they haven't even been fully healthy and still look that good. I think a lot of times we do this where we look at a team and we pick one because we don't like them. Will Compton said something about this yesterday, how Bama barely beat Arkansas, Georgia barely beat Vanderbilt, and that's fair of the scoreboard. But I'm not going to look at a team like Florida State and say, well, I don't think they can win this game because they barely beat Boston College that one time. Yeah. There's enough on this resume. There's enough on what they've done that tells me they're a good team. At night in Doak, I don't like the points. I just don't But if Riley Leonard doesn't play, then I do like the points because he is that entire offense. So I'm going to actually go against my better judgment and say I think Florida State wins. I think they don't put up that many points because the defense for Duke is actually really good. Yeah. But I think 28-10 Florida State.
Okay. I'd be totally happy with that. All right. Oh.
There you go.
Is that supposed to be Michigan's logo?
Yeah, it's an old school Wolverine.
Oh, cool. I don't know. 7:30. Number 2 Michigan at Michigan State, or is it versus?
I don't know.
Where's this game being played?
I think it's at Michigan State.
Michigan 24.5 point favorite. Total 48. Michigan State is
awful,
dude. So I took them money line last week against Rutgers. They were 5.5 point underdog.
Why?
They were winning the game like considerably all game, and then they just melted down the stretch and lost. It was like a +2 something thing. So I was like,
no, that's fair.
So, anyways, they should have won the game, but they didn't. And I just wonder where the headspace is in Michigan State, man. Like, you lose your coach. They haven't won a game since he's been gone. Maybe you like rallied the troops last week and it was a winnable game and you still lost the lead. I just don't. And Michigan has just been beating everyone they play by a billion.
Everyone.
I don't know how Michigan State can hang here. So I'll come up with a score, but I got Michigan covering the spread of 24.5.
Yeah, Vegas has been really good with Michigan because they haven't, like, early on in games, like Michigan has been dominant early on in games on both sides of the ball, but especially on defense. They've just been, they haven't played anybody. They have the 112th ranked strength of schedule in the country. And they haven't really gone away from home or anything like that. I love the fact this is like a perfect start getting you into the season now. And you should be because it's fucking week 8, Michigan. But like, rivalry game. This is like, these two don't like each other. It is like kind of like a bitter rivalry, but I think it's a perfect little warm up because you got Penn State coming down, in a week or so, and then obviously Ohio State at the end of the season. But they've been playing really well, and I think they got a wake up call from the Bowling Green game when McCarthy threw those 3 picks. They've just been executing on every phase of the game very well. Like they were playing Indiana and they gave up a touchdown in the first quarter. And I thought what was crazy about that was that Indiana's actual point total for the first half was 0.5. Like Vegas was saying they weren't going to score at all. They scored on the first drive of the game, got a busted play, and Michigan beat them 52-7. So there's that. This game, I think that any chance Harbaugh can like take to defend his teams, I think he's starting to really own that job. I feel like at that position, and that sounds weird because he's like in year 8 or 9 or whatever it is, but like he's starting to do stuff that I hate to say is like what actual successful coaches outside of the Big Ten do, and getting rid of some like the shitty the tough non-conference games, like going to bat for your team, like running up the score a little bit, like all these things. I think they win. I don't know if they put up if they win by more than 24. I just don't know what Michigan State can do. I don't consistently, right? So I think Michigan wins. I'll say they cover the spread and say 41-14.
Damn it. That was my exact score.
Is it?
Yeah.
Can I tell you one very brief, another little history lesson here about this trophy, because it's the Paul Bunyan trophy.
Okay. I've
never understood why there's not just one, but multiple Paul Bunyan themed trophies in this conference. Paul Bunyan's, when I first read that, I was wondering if I was the idiot and maybe Paul Bunyan was real. He's not. Paul Bunyan is not a real person. And there are 2 Paul Bunyan themed trophies. Just need you to think about that. Okay. Just think about that. If somebody made like a Mickey Mouse trophy, or Goofy or whatever, it's basically the same thing. Anyway, this game, they've played it forever. they decided that in 1954 they were going to, or sorry, 53 they were going to make a trophy, and they did it because the vibrant and major lumber producing state that Michigan is. That's always the first thing I think about when I think of Michigan is how much lumber they produce. So they went with a Paul Bunyan wooden trophy that's 4 feet tall, and then sits. By the way, this is what it looks like. He's just sitting out here showing off his dick to everybody. Look at this.
Look at that. He's posted up.
He's just flaunting it. This trophy definitely has the biggest dick energy of any other trophy in the country. It stands on a 5 foot tall platform, so it's essentially 9 feet tall. That's egregious. It's way too much. Anyway, I just want to get into this one thing about how they really love these traditions, Tyler, because they will tell you that to their blue in the face. And this is how much they love these traditions. When they gave the trophy in 1953, the very first year of the trophy, Michigan won. Michigan State won, and they refused to display it anywhere and take it home with them. The following year, the trophy was left on the field for an hour and a half after the game because neither team wanted to claim it, and Michigan especially didn't want to claim it. So they said, we'll find a place for it later. Then they put it into an equipment locker inside the stadium where no one could see it. Despite winning 54-55, Michigan did not put any of the scores on the trophy at all. Michigan State won in 56 and then did it for them.
There you go.
Which is very nice sportsmanship. They engraved it on there. They won it for the next 8 years and 11 on the next 12, blah, blah, blah. In 1958, the game ended in a tie, and Michigan State was, quote, so embarrassed they didn't win. They again refused to keep the trophy, but then Michigan also refused to keep the trophy. So it just sat in limbo, I don't know where, for a full year. And I think Lloyd Carr says it best. You talk about how much you love these traditions. Former Michigan coach said, and I quote, "It is the ugliest trophy in college football."
How sweet.
Just get like a fucking glass football and just redo this whole thing. This is ridiculous. Paul Bunyan. No, we're saving this one for last.
Oh, boy. Okay. Let's move to the Fox game of the week.
Yeah, let's do that.
This is a noon game. Big noon. Number 3, Ohio State hosting number 7, Penn State. Total 46.5. The line has ticked up to Ohio State 4.5.
Lineups.
For me, so Ohio State has a lot of injuries to some key playmakers, including Trevion Henderson and Emeka Egbuka, which I think you sweetly said, no thanks, I'll take the potatoes or something like that.
I did?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Ryan Day is not really saying much about the availability of the players, but
Lineups.
Yeah,
let's see when they play. Everything in this game tells me Ohio State should win this game by more than 4.5. I don't like Penn State's offense isn't great, and Ohio State's defense is really good. Penn State's defense is also very good, but I think Ohio State has more. But what scares me here, Ohio State 1-8-1 against the spread in their last 10 against ranked opponents.
Ohio State?
1-6. Yep, 1-6 in their last 7 at home against ranked teams.
No, it's not against the spread.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since 2013, Ohio State has only covered this game 3 times, twice at home.
Mm-hmm. And they haven't been big spreads either.
No, and Penn State is 12-0-1 against the spread in their last 13 games.
Like that.
So because of all that, I'm going to take Ohio State to win 27-24. Penn State covers. Ohio State wins. Low scoring.
Man. Yeah, that would be that makes sense.
Ohio State would be over the total.
Right. Ohio State is somehow flying under the radar right now. They're a really good team. They're really good defensively. Like you said, so is Penn State. Penn State has the 112th ranked strength schedule so far. They haven't played anybody at all with a pulse. They've covered in every game. They haven't been like they haven't been as good through the air as I thought they would be with Alar at quarterback. And he's been good at times, but it just hasn't been as consistent. they do have a very impressive win against Iowa, and we joke about Iowa, but like they're ranked, and it's their only loss of the season. They beat them 31-0 and held them to 74 yards of offense. They have the number one ranked defensive. They're number one in the country in defensive efficiency. So like you said, like they played both sides of the ball really, really well. The thing that's scary for me about Penn State is like I want to talk myself into Penn State winning this game, and I might before we're done. But like they've lost 10 of the last 11 in this series, and it hasn't been blowouts by any means. Like you said, Ohio State has struggled to cover the number. Like in the last couple of years, right? They've lost 10 of the last 11. James Franklin is 1-8 all time against Ohio State, including 0-4 on the road at Ohio Stadium, which is also that Ohio State needs a cooler name for their stadium than that. Ohio State and Michigan with so much tradition. Ohio Stadium and Michigan Stadium, that's fucking ridiculous. Anyway, but they've had a lot of opportunities to win these games. I'm trying to figure out where the stat on it, but basically I think they lost 2 of those games by 1 point, like another one by 2 points. They were winning in the fourth quarter last year, 21-16, and just the wheels fell off. They've had a lot of very close losses in this series. Ohio State at home, man. Ohio State is 39-2 in their last 41 games at home. 39-2. If they have not lost a lot, and they've for the most part destroyed teams that have been at home. You look at their average margin of victory at home versus on the road in the last several years under Ryan Day. It's been over 10 points per game higher at home than it has been on the road, and it's not like it's been very close on the road either, right? You're talking about 36 points per game this year at home versus 19 on the road. Last year, 29 points per game. They've averaged winning by almost 32 points per game at home under Ryan Day. I don't think Penn State can go on the road and beat them. I really want them to be honest, because I think it'd be good for football and college football. It'd be a great story. But I thought Penn State was going to be a better team last year against Michigan. And not only did they lose, they got boat raced in that game. And I think this is an Ohio State team that for the first time in a long time, maybe since like 2015, they not only are elite on offense, or they're not only good on offense, but they're like elite on defense, or can be. They're a very complete team. And so I think it'll be a great game either way, but I'm going to take Ohio State to win. I think it's super close. I'm going to say 34-31. What did you say yours was?
27-24. Ohio State.
Cool.
3:30. CBS. No,
I'm kidding. We don't need to talk about that game. Let's get into it. Bama-Tennessee.
Yep. Bama currently 8.5 point favorite.
Down from 9.5 already.
Yep. Number 11 Alabama. Number 17 Tennessee. I'm gonna let you go off on your tangent on the game. I'm starting. I'm starting. I'm just gonna let you go off after I do my thing. I don't trust Joe Milton at all. This is like the definition of a revenge game. Both defenses have been good, but Bama's has been better. I actually think all told, I mean, I know Tennessee's averaging more points per game. I think Bama's actually got the better offense this year, weirdly enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I just trust Bama's defense more here. I think they have the ability to keep Tennessee off the field better and sustain long drives. Success rate against Bama's defense is like 32%. So Tennessee's not going to be able to sustain drives. And they haven't really been explosive this year. They were super explosive last year, obviously, but not this year. And Bama actually has the more explosive offense as well. So I think all that, plus it's at home, plus it's a revenge game. I like Bama big here, 31-20.
Tyler. I have been looking at this game with a giant fucking circle around it since last year. Last year in Knoxville, I tried to pretend that I wasn't bothered by the 17 penalties and the way they lost. Tip of the cap to Tennessee for winning that football game, because they deserved to win that game. I will say it was very frustrating looking back at that game and thinking how awful Bama played, how awful the start was. They were down 28-10 in the first half. Several turnovers, like multiple missed kicks, missed field goals, some questionable play calling. 17 penalties. 17 penalties. It is one of the 3 different games in Bama's last 6 true road games where they have been flagged 10 more times than their opponent. And it was ridiculous. Tennessee was actually the highest penalized team in the country, or in the SEC last year, and were limited to 6 flags for 39 yards that game, miraculously. If this game was being played last week, my confidence would be way higher. And not just because of Bama, having to eke one out awkwardly against Arkansas, but after watching Tennessee and their game against A&M, the way it's not the fact they won that game, right? A&M's lost 3 starters in the front 7 during that game. They were playing a backup quarterback. Tennessee was favored, and they're at home. It's the way they won it and the way they chose to win that game, which was, we're going to run the football. And I don't think it was necessarily a choice like we're going to be more physical than them. It's like you have to, because Joe Milton is not going to win you a football game. He's just not. He's not going to win you a football game. He can make big plays. He can throw it a mile, and he can still be a good quarterback in this league at times. But he's not going to go win you a football game. I just last week against A&M on a little rollout to his left is the first time in his career he ever has thrown a touchdown on the run in his entire career. That's, again, at home. They chose to run the football. They ran it right down A&M's throat. And if there's one strength of this A&M team, it's stopping the run and being physical up front. And they got bullied. They flat out got bullied. Tennessee is second. Like this is what concerns me about the Bama part, because I want to sit here and look at it and be like, they're at home. It's a revenge game. They got to be fired up. Milrose played a lot better than people give him credit for. The comparison between these 2 quarterbacks, like there's even question who has the edge, is crazy to me, because Milrose has been far better than Joe Milton. But where I think Bama has struggled the most has nothing to do with quarterback. It has everything to do with the offensive line. They've given up 30 sacks this season. They've given up at least 4 in every game in the last 6, which is like the first time in 20 years that's happened. The offensive line has been really, really bad. They don't, even at home, pre-snap penalties. You shoot yourself in the foot a bunch. But they have not been physical enough to move people up front and run the football effectively. And in this game, I think you're going to have to, because Tennessee has nothing to lose, and they're going to try to harass Milroe. And even with how successful he's been, it's still terrifying sometimes, the decision-making he has of where to throw a football. So he has to continue to limit turnovers. They have to win the turnover battle in this game to beat Tennessee. But I just keep looking at Tennessee's defense, man. Second in the SEC in sacks per game, number 2 in tackles for loss. They're 4th in passes defended. They're 4th in third down conversions. Bama has been like horribly long in third downs this year. Like the average distance is over like 8.8 yards per attempt. And all that too, Tennessee also is I think top 2 or 3 in the SEC in limiting big plays on defense. I think that it's going to be a struggle for Bama for most of this game to score points. I want to pick Tennessee because I actually am very worried about the matchup there because of what their defense can do, and I think Bama's going to turn the ball over probably twice. But the homer in me is going to tell you that for 16 fucking years, Nick Saban owned these people and beat them by an average of 26 points per game. And I think that the Arkansas win, because it wasn't a loss, was uncomfortable and not great and not dominant and all that stuff. But I told you all week that there was not a more perfect example for a quintessential trap game than that game last week. They were up for most of the game and dominating Arkansas, and then they had a rough 10 or so minutes. Bama's defense is legit. Bama's defense is for real. And Jalen Milroe is better than people think. And Tennessee showed their fucking ass all year last year after this win. They made a fucking book, Tyler. They made a commemorative book on the season after this game, and it was October 15th.
Yikes.
I'm gonna be that guy, and I'm just gonna say this. Instead of breaking down the game of why Bama wins it, I'll just give you a quote from Tombstone. It's not revenge that we're after. It's a motherfucking reckoning. And I think Alabama comes out It is going to be awful and miserable and ugly for 3.5 to 4 hours. But I think Bama wins. I got Bama 20-17.
All-time classic there.
I hope not.
All right. Anything else you want to touch on before we let the listeners go?
Just your heart.
All right. Well, then that's the end of the show. As always, we really appreciate you all listening to the show. It would really help us in the growth of the show if you'd rate us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a review. We will read the best ones on air. I do believe we got one this week, but
let's do it next week. So I know you got to go.
We'll do it. Yep. Like and subscribe to the YouTube page. Leave us a message on the hotline this weekend. As you know, we now have a new segment called Angry Fans where we highlight the best calls of the week. And so the number there is 770-674-8233. Don't forget to check out the videos and clips from the show at Sat Down South on Twitter, at Saturday Down South on Instagram and TikTok, and Saturday Down South on YouTube. For Chris, I'm Tyler. Good luck this week. We'll talk to you on Sunday night.